right, ready?
Yes. Warning, this show may be triggering for anybody experiencing gambling-related harm. Please watch cautiously. We speak from our experiences only. Please seek professional help for a gambling addiction.
Hi, welcome to the Bet Free Life. I'm Christina, and I last placed a bet in March of 2021.
And I'm Brian, and I last placed a bet in July of 2014. And somebody on this program has a GA baby of 9 months. Christina, congratulations on your 9 months.
Thank you very much. I will be getting my keychain tomorrow, matter of fact, because I was officially 9 months on Mondays.
It's another day, but it's cool. It's great when you hit those anniversaries. It's something to be proud of. So well done.
It is. And I know a lot of people talk about keeping track of like days, or some people are for it, some people don't. But for me, in the beginning, I needed it. I needed it as kind of like that highway stake that tells you how far you've come, make sure you're going in the right direction. So for me, it's still pretty vital in my recovery, as far as just being able to look back and say, I got 9 months. I don't want to mess this up, and I'm pretty proud of those 9 months and how hard I've worked. So how are you? How was your week?
I feel busy. I scheduled way too many podcasts this month. And so I'm just trying to keep up. But I had a good one that I put out today with a writer, Stephen Marsh from The Atlantic, who wrote an article called America's Gambling Addiction is Metastasizing. And I was just excited because there's not a lot of mainstream gambling addiction articles. So I immediately reached out and he came on. It wasn't a long one. It was like a 25-minute podcast, but that's what he could give me. And it was a cool conversation. So I was just excited to get somebody who's writing about gambling addiction to talk about it on the podcast. That's what I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I've got a lot booked too. I put out 3 episodes this week. Cool. So I'd had them kind of like stacked up. And of course I had the Kitty Chronicles, Kitty Martz, who is the executive director of Voices of Problem Gambling Recovery in Oregon. She is so great. And
her energy is high.
Yes,
I talked to her this week for the first time. And it was an awesome conversation. She's got so much energy, really cool. People of Oregon are lucky to have her there.
Yes. And she's got so much passion for just helping those struggling with gambling addiction.
Awesome. Well, should we get to our guest today? A lived experience member of the community. Somebody's going to come out here, talk about their gambling addiction, what they're working on in their recovery. Phil from New Jersey is joining us. Phil, how are you? What is your date of recovery?
My date is April 19th of 2017. And Christina and Brian, thank you very much for having me on. And anxious and looking forward to taking all the questions and seeing what you're wondering about me. But I just want to say I've watched all 7 episodes so far. I just love what you guys are doing. It's great stuff, and I know it's helping people. It's not even a question what you're doing and being on screen like this. It's amazing, and keep it up, please. People need it. People want it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for saying so. I know we both appreciate it very much. That's really kind of you to say, and we know you've been watching because you emailed early on to say, hey. And we all exist in this world, so we sort of have been dancing around each other like this for some time. But all 3 of us have been on Craig Carton's program. Hello, my name is Craig. That they put out,
and that kind of led me to my part-time job now. I went on that show with Craig, talked about my lived experience, and I see a therapist every couple weeks, and I'm like, I enjoy doing that, but I want to do something more. What more can I do? I don't have the technical expertise that you both do on setting up stuff like this. I didn't want to do my own thing, but I wanted to help if I could. And he said, you know what? You should talk to someone at 800 Gambler. It's in New Jersey. Before I knew it, in August, I had a part-time job there. And the idea is to answer that line and maybe go out to schools. I've been to some VA hospitals, just talking about my lived experience. Now I'm talking about it from a peer point of view because I've been through it, and I've been really great times and really bad times, but I can share those stories. And if it helps a few people, that's good stuff.
That's absolutely wonderful. And I love the fact that you wanted to give back and help and talk with people. That's absolutely wonderful. So can we kind of hear a little bit about your story and kind of your recovery journey?
My father happened to like going the track occasionally. And, as a small kid, oh, gee, when I'm old enough, I want to go with him. So I was 9, 10 years old, understood it a little, bought my own little racing form and pen to go the track with and figure out what horses were going to win and save up $2 or $5 to make my bets, and he'd make them for me. And it seemed just kind of like a silly habit, but also one, wow, I can share time with my dad. And it was kind of neat at the time. But once I could get my own driver's license, once I went off to college, it was still in New Jersey, but once I went to college, I had the freedom to, hey, I can drive the track myself and I can go more often. And I can take kind of real money there. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was real money to me. And, the first year of college, I kind of balanced it okay. But once sophomore year in college hit, I was going the track or finding someone to place bets with. I won't say every day, but 3, 4, or 5 times a week. And as happens with most people, I got into trouble with it. And I started, taking out high interest loans or just risking things I shouldn't have been risking, and starting that spiral that can end really badly. And come the mid 90s or so, I was going wrong direction. And I said I was probably 30 days or so from prison, insanity, or death, one of those bad outcomes. And it was one night I was coming home to my parents' home I guess it was late spring or summer. And I didn't feel like driving home because I didn't feel like, where have you been? What happened? Were you at the track? Why do you keep doing this? So I drove to the hospital. I didn't know exactly my plan, but I drove to the hospital. I went in and I said, I need help. They had no idea what to do with me. So pretty much they put me in the drunk tank, and I hadn't had a drink, but they had nothing else to do with me. It was like a Friday night. They couldn't figure out until Monday any idea what to do with it. They didn't give me any medicine. They just gave me a bed and said, okay, we'll take care of you when we can. And Monday, about a town or two away, there was a GA meeting. So they said, if we let you go, you got to go to that GA meeting. I said, okay, I'll go. And I went to that GA meeting for 14 straight weeks or so. And they said, you've hit 90 days. You get to lead a meeting. I didn't know one person in the meeting because I didn't want to know them. I didn't care. I had introduced myself that many times. They had all said their name that many times. I needed somebody to sit by me and help me lead the meeting because I was like, you're Bob? No, I'm Fred. I didn't know a name. I didn't know what to do because I wasn't paying any attention. And I went back to gambling. Luckily, it was right around that time. I happened to have a blind date. And I said, well, I guess I'll go on this blind date. I'll save a few bucks to go on this blind date. And it was with my now wife. And we've been married, I better get this right, 23 years, coming up on 24. And that doesn't mean I have 24 years clean, but it started me down a better path. So that was a long answer. I don't even remember what the question was, but that's a little bit of my journey. My journey was mostly betting at the racetrack, some sports, some casino, some just bad behavior, stupid decisions, risky decisions. And, I had a stretch of just over 10 years clean from shortly after my kids were born. I have now a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I had a stretch from 2003 to 2014 without betting. But I also had some health problems, and about the time I had the health problems, I said, why not go back to betting too? If I'm going to do things right yet still have health problems, well, why not throw in some bets as well? And yeah, that was stinking thinking for sure. And I had a little fun for a little while, but then luckily got back into the program in 2017 and been clean since then.
How hard was it to start gambling again, this time with people around, with being married and with kids versus,
with loved ones,
before by yourself?
It was harder and it was more stressful, and I was worried about getting caught. When I was on my own, who cares if I get caught? Who cares if I tell a friend I'm not going to do this anymore and I do it? The friend can't do anything to me. But if I'm married and have responsibility and job responsibilities, it's not just me anymore. It's other people involved. And I rightfully, my marriage was on the edge, and I got kicked out of the house for about 7-8 months, and I should have been. And that was a good decision. And I wasn't getting back into the house unless I really changed my behavior. And it's not as simple as, oh, okay, I just won't do it anymore. It doesn't quite work like that. But I started going to more meetings. When I went to meetings, I listened. If I had questions, I asked questions. I started seeing a counselor. I got on, New Jersey has some self-exclusion lists. You can get on those lists and prevent at least a fail-safe, another roadblock if you want to go gambling. So I know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it. And I've done it now with diligence. And when I don't feel right, I make a phone call or I talk to a loved one, and I've managed to put 4.5 years together. And when I wake up tomorrow, I hope to put another day on that, but I'll try to do it for a long time if I can.
Oh, that's great. One thing I want to ask you though, a lot of people think in recovery, like when they stop gambling, like they'll do the meetings and they'll be fine. Like it's something that we don't ever graduate from. I think once we cross that line, it's not something that, we can just put a Band-Aid on and be like, oh, I'll never bet again. So when you talk about that, you had a stretch of 10 years clean, and then you went back out. That kind of, talks about that as far as like, you never graduate from this program or from the program of recovery. It doesn't necessarily have to be GA or whatever your program of recovery is.
I can tell you, Christina, from that experience, what happened to me was my number of meetings per week, per year kept going in the wrong direction. Oh, I can miss this week. I got it. Oh, I'll miss 2 weeks in a row. Who cares? I know what they're going to say. Oh, this woman or this gentleman celebrating an anniversary. I don't really care for them. I'm not going to go. Or, I'm going to miss my regular meeting, but there's one later in the week. I'll catch that one, and then never even think about catching that. It's not a coincidence that the bad behaviors were followed by bad decisions. And yeah, I can look at it. Was there a trigger? Well, a trigger, it just kept building up. I kept making small bad decision, slightly bigger bad decision, then really bad decisions. And, it was a lot smaller amount and a lot smaller number of times participating in the activities, but I should have been able to avoid that, and I wasn't. And I have to know, if I'm going to miss a meeting now, I'm telling a bunch of people why. I'm telling them the meeting I'm going to go to instead. Somebody called me a couple weeks ago. Hey, I'm going to miss a meeting. I'm going to go to this one instead. I said, I'll pick you up. Get involved in any way you can. You guys do an amazing job doing this. If somebody's watching every week and then says, I'm not going to watch, or I'm going to do something else, if you start putting a bunch of things in front of recovery, you're not going to have recovery. It's got to come near the top of the list. Yes, you have family and work might be up there, but recovery's got to be up there, or it falls apart. At least it did in my case. And, I mentioned I'm working at the 800 Gambler line, and just hearing some of those stories, comes right back to me. I've been in this spot. And if somebody says, should I take medication? I don't know. And I don't tell them that I know. I tell them what I've done that's been successful and what I did that wasn't successful. But if I'm going to work that job, I better be doing the things I know I should be doing.
Thank you.
I give rambling answers, don't I, man?
No, you give good answers.
I'm passionate about this. I care about this because I know the harm it can cause people. When I say I was 30 days away from something, that's not hyperbole. I was, and I pulled it back just in time. And so when I hear people on the phone saying, you know, my son, my daughter, my mother, my father, my loved one, me, I have a problem, I want to help if I can.
Well, I think a bit of what you're talking about is complacency. And I went through that same issue. I was 2.5 years and I went, you know, I'm tired tonight. I'm not going to go to my meeting. I'll go next week. Next week came and I went, I don't feel like going. I'm fine. It's been 2.5 years. I'm fine. And then that happened for a few more weeks. Then I just didn't go again. And then I was gambling again, 2.5 years down the toilet, back to day one. But I went back to my meeting. You know, it took me 6 months, I think, to go back, but went back and started again. And that's always, how hard was it for you? Did you go back to the same room? And how hard was that? Because I know a lot of people stay out, they relapse and they stay out, but we always want people to relapse and go back in. And don't worry about that shame. People in the room don't care. Go back in. How was that for you, Phil?
I tried to do a little of both. Like I tried to get back to what I consider my regular room. Yet if I'm going to do recovery better, I had to do something a little different as well. And that's throw in another meeting. Instead of doing 2 meetings a week, do 3 for a while. Instead of always going the same place, go somewhere else. Now that there are some online meetings, you don't feel right, jump on an online meeting if for a half hour or an hour and do it. But I felt it was only fair. I had a sponsor at the time. I say had because he passed away, sadly, but not related to the gambling. But I told him, you know, I had this relapse. He said, you're coming into the meeting, you're speaking first, and I don't want to hear anything about it. And this, I'm about 6'3", but this guy is about 6'5", and I kind of got the idea I better be there that night. And you know, I spoke first, and we have like a 5-minute time limit for therapy. I probably talked for 15, and you know, just got it out there, and no one gave me a hard time. It's all these things I put in my head, like I can never go back there. I'll be so embarrassed to go back there. Did I ever give someone a hard time that had a relapse? I hope not. So if this is a tough illness, the people who really have this addiction, they're battling it every day. And it can be won, but it's not easy. It's never going to be easy. What's that? The difference between simple and easy? Yeah, don't bet. Okay. Yeah, it's not quite that easy. But if I don't feel right, I got 2 or 3 phone lists, a couple in my car, 1 or 2 at work. Call, pick it up. I've never hung up on someone who was trying to call from a room calling me for help. They're not going to hang up on me either. So I think the question, was it hard going back there? Yeah, but it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard when you have a relapse and are going back. It wasn't hard because people in there gave me a hard time. I was being hard on myself. But
Yeah, and I think
I still had to do it.
Yeah, and it's important to for people to know that, to hear that, because the shame sometimes can lock us up. Like, oh, I cannot go back in there and tell these people that just celebrated 6 months with me that I went back out. But the truth is you can, because they want to be there for you. They want to be right there with you when you start that day one again, you know. And I'm of the belief that even if you do mess up and you go back out, you still built so much in that clean time. You built tools, but now it's time to kind of figure out what didn't work. Then it's time to, like you said, find something different, something that's going to help reinforce that. And it's interesting because the first time we tried to record a little bit ago, but my thing froze up. I was talking about cutting back on meetings this week. And just hearing you say that, I'm like, was that an excuse? was I making excuses for not going to meetings this week? Because I can see how easy that is. I was feeling a little wore out this week. I've been feeling a little sick, and I was like, it made it easier to talk myself out of these meetings. I normally do 5 to 6 meetings a week, and I did 2 this week. And so it gives me something to think about. And I think people may be watching this, it might give them something to think about too, because it is really easy to say, feeling kind of run down. I think I'm going to skip. I'll catch the next one. And I did that twice, 2 days in a row. I'm like, I'll catch tomorrow's. And I didn't. So thank you for sharing that.
At least do something. If you're not going to go to that meeting, even if it's an online meeting, make a few extra phone calls. You probably have a bunch of people that you call within the program. If you don't, you should. but get a few that you can really rely on, that, hey, they're going to be there. They're going to pick up the phone. They're going to help. And if you want to go out again and gamble, you'll find a way. But we have to, the first person we lie to is ourselves. And I feel great, but I'm not going to go to the meeting. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't add up for me anymore. So that's what I look at. And I went to an extra meeting last night just because I'm like, I got to live this. I'm telling people on the phone and in the program what to do. I better be doing it also. And if someone misses a meeting or two and I have their number in my phone, I check up on them. Hey, what's wrong? What's going on? I'll drive you there. Let's go get a bagel. Let's figure something out. Most people say coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. I think I'm the only person in GA who doesn't drink coffee or tea or something like that.
I don't. Never drank coffee. Never.
We're in the minority.
Very much so.
What do you think about the concept of telling somebody about your addiction when you're new, when you need to break away from, I don't want to stop gambling. How do I stop gambling? I always tell people to tell somebody, to make it real, to tell another human, not online, but another human, make them care about you. What do you think about that, Phil? And who did you first tell about your addiction?
I guess friends first, but up there pretty close to that had to be loved ones. I mean, when you're starting to affect other people in terms of, hey, I borrowed money from you and you haven't seen that money come back. Well, I got to tell those people. I got to be completely honest with myself, with them. But, mending those relationships can be hard too. And, maybe I haven't repaired all of them, and maybe some aren't going to be repaired. But I'm in a better place now than I've been health-wise, recovery-wise, in years, if not decades. And that's pretty cool. And really following a program and being honest with myself and other people has led to that. It's not rocket science. It's tough, but it's not that tough. So we can do the solid things that yellow book has a lot of good material in it. And it's a 17 or 18 page book. For that amount of reading, it's got a lot of good stuff. And if something doesn't feel right, read that, or make a phone call, or tell a loved one. If somebody reached out to you with some sort of health problem, I would hope that you would try to help them. And that's what I had to do more of. I was good at being the helper, but I wasn't good at reaching out for help. And it only works if you do it both ways, at least for me. I speak in these big terms, but, and I know it's a little different for every person, but, the stuff tends to work if you work it.
And you're worth it.
And you're worth it.
Oh.
We both did it. Working with the 1-800-GAMBLER and being on the helpline. You talk to, a lot of people call in and they talk about their spouse or their loved ones who are affected by gambling. And I know we're just talking our own experiences. What would you say to somebody who calls in and says, my husband's gambling, I don't know what to do? Like, what would be something that you would tell somebody that's calling in?
The biggest difference between what you're saying, kind of a relationship of equals, is different than when it's a a parent with a kid or a kid with a parent. Because right there, those relationships I just mentioned, there's often an enabling aspect. With the spouse relationship, there doesn't seem to be as much of that enabling. I'm going to give my husband $5,000, or I'm going to give my wife that. I don't hear that as often. But I would say if there's any enabling going on, try to put a stop to that. Try to have that person call. There's only so much we can do on the phone when it's a loved one. We can tell them, if appropriate, 800 Gambler and GA are two different things, but if appropriate, we'll tell them where GA meetings are, where therapy can be found, where software like Gamban or other software to get it off your computer if somebody's using a phone or computer. It's in some states, and that's great stuff. All those tools, but ultimately that person has to want recovery too. The husband or the wife sneaking around, oh, I looked at their computer, or I saw a credit card statement, I'm so tricky, I caught them. Well, what's the goal there? And I was talking to someone today, and I don't give details of the phone calls that come in. They're just for us, but they were, oh, and I asked my husband this question. I'm like, what answer did you want? If they say no, you don't believe them. If they say yes, they're in trouble for saying yes. So that's one tip I give. Don't ask questions you don't really want answers to. Go to the meeting with them, even if it's to drop them off. Some meetings don't allow loved ones in there with you, but there may be a Gammon meeting. There may be something else going on. But the gambler has to want recovery. You try to make it easier for them to get it. Give them the information and hope they take it. And if they're digging a hole, don't hand them a shovel. Don't make things worse. You want them to get better. You love them. That's going to help. I hope that got to an answer somewhere.
That did. That's great advice. And I would also say, find help as an affected other, whether it's a parent, spouse, sibling. Find help for yourself. Also, I just want to put that
and
out
that's
there.
the first question I ask is, when it's an affected other, is, are you in a safe place, and do you have somebody to talk to?
That's great.
And a lot of times, what? I don't have the problem. Yeah, you do have the problem. You have a big problem, and it's in your house. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bodily threat or something like that, but even emotionally, mentally, monetarily, it can lead to real bad stuff. As you know, as you both know, it's dangerous. And I'm sure, you both do your other podcasts, which are both awesome. If people haven't listened to them, they're both great shows. This one, I guess I like the visual medium, but there's good stuff on here. I'm sure you've heard from people. Saying, thank you for doing this. It's helped me hear that I'm not the only one going through it. And tell the affected others, this seems weird right now, but the person you love has a problem, and you're going to try to help them through it, not enable them through it, not do it for them. You're going to try to assist them if you can. And sometimes you can't. And some of these stories are going to end badly, but we're trying to maximize how many end well.
Phil, you are in New Jersey, and New Jersey had online gambling prior to other states having online gambling. Did you ever use online gambling in your situation?
Somehow I mistimed it in terms of, I would have loved to be an online gambler. And I just timed it wrong. I think some of it started right after 2003, 2004. It started in a small way. And that's when I was clean. And by the time it got to 2014 or so, I didn't want to do online gambling because I figured I'd get caught, and I would have. I didn't want to get caught, and I wouldn't have been proud of online gambling. I wanted to be sneaky and take an hour here and there. So somehow I virtually avoided that, and it was more of a timing thing than I was so smart not to do that. No, But yeah, New Jersey has you drive down the highway and there's every third or fourth billboard is for a gambling website or a brick and mortar site. We have casinos, we have racetracks, we have, bingo halls, the lottery at every store. It's a tough state for a recovering gambler, but luckily we have some resources too. Are they weighed equally? Not even close. But the more we can get the word out there, the better. That there is help for the people who want it and need it.
That word friction, that's always a word that's brought up when you talk about having to go to the casino, because you have to get in a car, drive to the casino. You have to walk inside, you have to sit somewhere, and then you can start gambling. And then if you need more money, you have to go physically get more money from an ATM, from a credit card machine. Now, it's just a click of a button. As somebody with experience just in gambling, do you find this scary, that you can gamble on your phone as much as you probably just use your phone in general?
Yeah, fortunately I use my phone for the things I need to use it for, but yeah, it's scary because how old is the person picking this up? Could be a 12-year-old. And they'll pose as a 18-year-old, but they know how to use the phone better than the 18-year-old probably. And the 18-year-old knows how to use it better than the 38-year-old. So who's on there? Who's doing it? And there are these things I don't fully understand. And I've had even some training in it, but I don't fully get what's a loot box, what's a skin, what's a cryptocurrency. I get the concepts, but I never participated in them. Well, if I'm going to be a pure specialist, I better start participating in them. No. I'll talk about what I understand and the general concept of gambling, but fortunately, I haven't done any on the phone, but yeah, ads pop up. I'm on the internet and an ad pops up, or I'm watching a football game. A lot of the times, if I'm watching a sporting event, I'll start watching a football game at 1:30 instead of 1. That way I can just go through the ads. And the team I root for stinks anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if it's not
they don't
quite
stink
live.
Worse than my team.
Well, I like the Jets, so I don't know how bad yours could be.
I'm a Lions fan. And
okay, they don't stink as bad as that.
No. What's your favorite step? Do you have a favorite step?
Ooh. I was guessing you'd ask what was my favorite of the 20 questions, but favorite step, it was so important for me to literally look in the mirror and admit what I was doing. And it was so hard. It was so hard. So, even if it's one of those early steps, it meant a lot to me. And then making amends to the people I could was also so important to me. Admitting I couldn't solve it all and that I really had a problem took me a long time. And I wouldn't say I did it when I was at college. I may not have even have done it when I had years of sobriety. It probably took me until about 2017 to just say, I can't do this anymore. I'm never going to break even. I got to stop chasing or I'm going to be dead. Or I'm going to be living a life I'm really not proud of. And I didn't want that to be my story. I wanted my story to have a better middle and end. And, really, it really has. And I look back at, I had heart surgery 3 times about 6 years ago. And most people would say, wow, that's really tough. You had 3. I had 3 open heart surgeries because of a valve problem. Most people would say, wow, it's like the biggest event in your life. No, the gambling was much harder for me. And I spent 18 straight days in the hospital with the 3rd surgery. And I'm like, well, I'll certainly never gamble after this. I did. So that's how hard this addiction is. It didn't answer the step question, but
no, it did. It did.
Just saying.
I think so. Okay, so go ahead. You thought we were going to ask about 20 questions. What's your favorite question?
I went 19 for 20, so I always look at number 6 as the one I didn't answer yes to. And so I don't know if that's my favorite or if just 17-year-old me didn't understand it. And it was probably, I have tons of ambition because I'm working 3 jobs to support my gambling habit. That's ambition. Yeah, I don't think I fully understood that word at the time, but that was the one question I answered no to. So I didn't go 20 for 20. So I always look at that question as, if somebody walks in and goes 20 for 20, you beat me. Congratulations. Yeah. But those questions about, did I go more when I was winning? Did I go more when I was losing? Back to back, just yes, yes. I don't think either question finished. Did I go more when I was even? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Anytime I could go, I went. And, no concept of the house is going to win. For most of the time, most of the people involved, if I kept playing enough, the house was going to win. And it did. But now I'm winning. Now I'm winning at the way I'm winning is not playing. And
Absolutely.
it really is the truth. And someone puts lottery ticket in a card and doesn't know I have a problem or something, somebody says, "Oh, give it away, throw it away." I just rip it up. Well, you ripped up a lottery? Yeah, I don't care. Oh, that's stupid. I don't care. So I'm stupid. I don't care. I'm not gonna get involved in that stuff. I'm really not. And at least I tell the higher power I'm not gonna do that. And I really mean it. I really mean it. I said at a meeting recently, yeah, it's day by day, but I also put the goal of I'm never gonna do it. So now I can balance those two of, yeah, I'm living day by day, but I also have the goal of I'm not going to do it. And, fortunately, I'm headed in a good direction. If I can help some others, I really want to. If I can go on podcasts or speak in front of a school or go to a hospital or just talk to other people who are having a problem, that's what I want to do. If that's what I'm remembered for, that's not so bad.
I heard somebody say one time that compulsive gamblers have no willpower. That's why we can't stop gambling. But I totally disbelieve that. I believe we have tremendous willpower because we will do anything to gamble, even at the cost of our sanity, our lives, our homes, our families. And I just remember, that being a big misconception. But as far as the ambition and stuff goes, it killed my ambition to do anything other than work to gamble. That's anything else when it came to housework or any of that kind of stuff. I had no energy for it. I had no drive to do it, to take care of things and do those things. So that's just kind of in relation to that question. That's where it did affect my ambition, but at the same time, I would do anything to gamble.
At least for me, it's a lot of paradox when it comes to gambling. The harder I worked, the more I worked, the more money I made, the less money I had, which that doesn't make a lot of sense.
To a gambler, it does.
To a gambler, it does. That's why you got to go to the rooms and listen to shows like this. There are people out there who absolutely won't understand what we're talking about. That's okay. It's not for them.
Do you still get urges?
Fewer and further apart, which is good. Sometimes they surprise me. Sometimes I'll forget an older movie has a scene that, oh yeah, now they're going to the casino or now they're going to the track or now. So little of that. I know a lot of people get upset at the ads. I'm upset by them because there's 1 second of a good message and 29 seconds of just silliness and stuff I don't need, but that doesn't cause me I want to play. Because a lot of my gambling was horse racing, when we're kind of in that season of Triple Crown races that I know there are big races, I'll try to remove myself from the TV as much as possible, but that's the biggest thing in terms of urges. How about you guys in terms of urges?
Once in, overall, no, not anymore. But once in a while, like I'll just something similar. I remember I was going to the bathroom and I was looking at my phone. And for whatever reason at that moment,
Where's this story going? Okay.
I thought I was living in North Carolina at the time, and I thought, where's the nearest casino to me? And I looked and I went, oh, it's 5 hours. And then I deleted it. You know, I turned off my phone. I closed out the search and I was just like, what the hell am I doing? But I was sort of in that space. I just moved from California from when I was driving 4.5 hours to go to Vegas all the time during my last relapse. And I moved to North Carolina and got away from everything, and seeing that it was 5 hours after driving 4.5, I looked at 5 and I went, I don't drive 5 hours to gamble. So I felt good on that. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I didn't. I've been good ever since. But I've woken up before and just like had it, not necessarily an urge, but a gambling dream that was very familiar to me. And I'd wake up like, oh, okay, I didn't gamble. All right. Phew. First of all, do I want to gamble? No. Okay, I don't. So for the most part, I don't get them anymore. I did drive by up in Massachusetts. There's a casino in Springfield. I drove by that and looked at it. And I had this fleeting thought of, there's the door. I found the door. So now I know exactly where to go. And then I just kept driving. And that was that. That was the last time.
And who's going to know? Who's going to know? Who's going to know if I duck in there for an hour? Who's going to know? You're going to know.
Yeah. And it's going to bug the shit out of me if I go in there and gamble. No matter what, no matter how much I win, I can't get back the not gambling. And it's not about the time, like whether it's a day or 20 years, it doesn't matter. You didn't gamble today, but I can't get back that trust in myself. You know, if I gamble once, even just once, then I know I'm capable of gambling every other day. And that's,
if you
that's
gamble once
thought.
and if you gamble and don't get caught, it's going to make it worse than if you are, or if you catch yourself. So
yeah, it's like winning that first time. Then you're like, well, this was easy. I'm going back.
I struggled with them over the Thanksgiving holiday. I hadn't really struggled with them much in these 9 months. And I had been telling everyone, I'm not having urges. I'm not really having urges. I guess because I talk about it so much. And I hear so many stories, and I'm talking to so many people who are still really struggling. And so it kind of reinforces that with me. But the holidays came around, and it's something I had associated with for several years. I would go gambling with my mom or family members, you know, after we'd eat dinner, those kinds of things. So it wasn't so much an urge as it was like an association or something with the holiday, because in the last 15 years, that's just been normal, you know? And so it was just kind of, I was having these flashes, and I reached out to a couple of different people in a group, and I was able to work myself through it. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good this past week. And so yeah, I just, it was kind of a lesson to never say never for me.
It really is. It really is. And to know what to do if you get one.
Right.
To have some steps in place as to, I'm going to make this phone call or this one, or go head to a mall, go for a walk, whatever you do, that's a healthier thing for you to do.
Yeah. And I did, I reached out, and I'm glad that I'm in a place that when I feel them coming on, I know that the people I reach out to, they want to talk me through it. They want to just be there. And it's, you know, this recovery community is such an amazing space.
Phil, any advice left for that person still struggling that may be watching?
I'll put out the PSA for a second of the 800 gambler line, but I know not everybody watching this is in a state where that's the phone number. But from your first episode on, you've been putting up phone numbers and websites, and please try something. Don't go through this alone. It's just, when there's help out there for you, please utilize it, please. And we have some great people in our office, and we have a good staff, and I'm sure these other states have that as well. So make a phone call, write an email, call a friend, watch another podcast, do something positive. Do something positive. You don't have to struggle with this alone.
Well said. I think that's good advice to go out on, Christina.
Yeah, absolutely. What do they say? Connection is the opposite of addiction. Is that what they say?
That is it.
My last words would be thank you to so much for doing what you're doing. This show is going to help a lot of people, and I know it already has, and it's going to help a lot more. So please keep doing it and doing it as well and responsibly as you are. And thank you.
Well, thanks for lending your voice to it. And thanks for being that frontline worker on answering the helpline. That's a very important job. And you need people to do that. And so I'm glad you're the person doing that.
Absolutely. We appreciate it so much.
I appreciate being on.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. This was awesome. Thank you so much. For Christina, I'm Brian. This was the Bet Free Life. Stay tuned for those phone numbers.
Freeze up. We're gonna have a lot of work to do.
It'll just be me nodding at you while you are frozen.
Well, I'm like.